Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make sense. Hi everyone. I met Janet about 6 or 7 years ago when I was facilitating a step work group at the secondary facility where she was at that stage. It was great fun to run into her about 6 months ago at an NA meeting in Somerset West. I was sad to hear that she had relapsed and was fresh out of treatment again. But as is always the case, I was incredibly happy to see her back in recovery. From day one in that meeting, I was stunned at Janet's commitment to service. She immediately became involved, and we have been serving at and driving together to and from meetings ever since. I could not wait for Janet to be 1 year clean, to ask her to come and talk to us. Not that 1 year clean time is a prerequisite to be a guest on Meet Me in the Field, but because Janet was very reluctant to share her story before this milestone. Well, I did not wait. 1 year clean and 3 days later, here she is. This podcast is supported by The First Layer, the 12-step workbook on working through the 12 steps in any addiction in 21 sessions. There is also a 24-day coaching and counseling program available based on The First Layer. For more information in this regard, go to www.freddy.org.za and click through from the notices at the right of the homepage. Sit back and enjoy. Good morning, Janet. How are you doing?
Hi, Freddie. I'm really happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you here.
I've just had such an awesome week, so I'm doing very well, thanks.
You had a week of celebrations.
Yeah, I certainly did. 1 year clean.
And you had your birthday the previous week.
The previous week, yes.
So, was it accidental that your clean date was close to your birthday, or was it planned that you were going to give yourself recovery for your birthday?
No, not at all planned. I was house sitting for my mum. They'd gone to the Kruger Park and it was my birthday while they were away. And when they came back, they could see I was not okay. And I was afforded the opportunity to go into treatment. And it's just by sheer coincidence that exactly a week after my birthday, it was like 6 days later that I went there, so it was exactly a week later that
perfect.
Was my clean date, yeah.
So you virtually gave yourself recovery for your birthday?
I did, not intending to, but it turned out that way.
My first sponsor, his clean date was his 40th birthday.
Oh, really?
He gave himself recovery for his 40th
I wish
birthday.
it had been my 40th, but unfortunately not.
How did I say? The only meeting that you can be late for is your first. So how are you doing? How's life treating you?
I must say that when I left treatment, after 6 months, I was there for almost 6 months, and I thought I was actually terrified because I was planning on staying for a year. That was what I was led to believe. And when I left, I was really scared because I didn't know that I could stay clean outside of treatment.
Is this the longest you've ever been clean since you've come into recovery?
Definitely, yes. There were periods before where I thought I was clean, because if I wasn't using street drugs, I considered that being clean. But meanwhile, I was using alcohol, not like really badly. Towards the end, it got bad because I just drink to alleviate anxiety, and then I was using a lot of prescription medication for anxiety. And when the meds stopped working, I started drinking alcohol on top of the medication.
Okay. Nice little cocktail
Lovely.
of stuff.
Oh, yes. And I couldn't afford my street drugs anymore because I'd lost everything through my years of using. I'd use that like once or twice a month if I was what I called lucky then.
Party time!
Yeah, party time. There was a period where I thought that I was clean based on my faith alone.
Okay.
I wasn't working a 12-step program. I was going to church like 6 days a week to whatever was happening at the church, whether it be Bible study, prayer meetings, 3 church services on a Sunday. I was working in the office voluntarily, helping with interior design even because they were renovating. And I wasn't on street drugs then, but I was substituting my drug of choice with Ritalin.
Okay.
So I was using Ritalin. I drank alcohol very sparingly to also, once again, for anxiety. Was on a lot of prescription meds. And I thought that was clean time. So me then, I was clean for almost 21 months, but I wasn't clean.
Okay, yeah. Are you still on anxiety medication?
No, nothing.
Are you serious?
Not a thing.
No antidepressants, no anxiety,
The strongest thing that I ever take is Bernardo, although I have taken my page as well. When I went
That is amazing. And do you experience anxiety and depression?
It's like the most amazing thing, because when I went into treatment, we weren't allowed our phones. So for almost 6 months, I didn't have a phone. And when I got the phone back, I changed my number because I didn't want my ex-boyfriend to be able to reach me and all of those things. When I looked at old messages that were still there, not on WhatsApp, but normal text messages, I saw that I'd been saying to my son-in-law, who was the one who paid for the treatment and who booked me in, who had been there himself 3 or 4 years previously, but if I'm going later today, I need meds because I'll never survive without meds for anxiety. Well, he was just like not communicating with me, and the next thing I was on the plane.
He was not entertaining your bullshit.
No, definitely not. I literally had about 5 pills left. I was on Pax and Trepoline then. I had my last glass of wine at Mug and Bean at the airport.
Before you boarded?
Before I boarded,
okay, cool.
yeah. When I got there, I discovered that, unless you're an extreme case where they'd wean you off, that treatment centre was totally anti any prescription meds.
Very well known for their no.
And I wasn't in too much. I remember, I'm surprised actually that at the time I didn't overreact, but I just accepted it.
Oh, wow.
So I handed in my little 5 pills, and I thought, I'll probably suffer like hell. But at the same time, my life was so unmanageable before that I felt like this, cocooned environment.
Yeah. Did you feel safe there?
Yes, I felt safe.
I felt so safe in treatment.
I felt very safe. I felt like, well, first of all, there's, being a love addict as well. There were all these hot guys hanging around.
So many men, so little time.
And then I had a bed to sleep in, and I had 3 meals a day and a routine that I had to stick to. So for me, all that anxiety left me.
Fantastic.
Like almost immediately. I didn't even need a pill. On my second night, I remember I woke up before bed. I'd gone to bed really early, and I'd woken up, and the house leader at the time gave me a mug of warm milk, and the anxiety left, and it never came back until the last month when my counsellor said, well, now you actually have to leave in a month's time.
Time to put your big girl panties on and go, girlfriend.
And I didn't want to leave.
But that was not unmanageable anxiety. It was just kind of natural fear of change and fear of different
not unmanageable
things and so on.
at all. Yeah, and also in that treatment centre, I think unlike a lot of other treatment centres, once a week we would have a informative video, and often they would be on prescription meds.
Okay.
And a psychiatrist, Peter Bragan, American, a lot of those videos were ones that he put together.
Okay.
And the horrors of prescription medication. I mean, I never thought it was a problem until I went there. Never.
I hear you.
Because when I was in treatment before, everybody went to a psychiatrist and everybody was on meds. So this was all new to me.
Yeah.
But I came out of there with a completely new way of looking at, how people are treated for what they think are psychological illnesses.
Yes. I always have a serious conversations with friends of mine in the mental health field about, I think you diagnose addicts too quickly with other stuff instead of letting them get clean.
Yes.
And be clean for a while and then diagnose them when the actual all the other shit's been dealt with. Because like I was clean for 2 years when my depression came back big time. But then this is depression. There was nothing wrong in my life.
Yes.
So it wasn't a situation. Then we knew that I suffer from depression. And then I tried to I went on antidepressants for a while to address that.
Yes.
And I got much better, and then I went off them of a period of 1.5 years or 2 years. We've been making me off. And then 2 years later, it was back. So I now know that I suffer from depression.
Yes.
So therefore, I take 1 tablet a day and my life goes on.
Yes, well, I know that there's a time and a place for it, but I'm trying to say is that like a lot of people are just diagnosed incorrectly. They just go to a GP and
all this if I get a client in my rooms that says, oh, I'm on antidepressants, the first thing I ask is who prescribed it. They say a doctor. I said no. I want you to see a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Listen, Janet, so you grew up in Cape Town?
Yes,
Okay.
I grew up in Cape Town.
In city self or?
Actually in Pinelands.
Okay.
And when I was 13, my dad was transferred to Bloemfontein, and then he was transferred back to Cape Town after 18 months and
So
went back to
you were an
Barnet.
Afrikaner girl for 18
yes, I
months.
learned a lot of Afrikaans there. Yeah, I mean, our Afrikaans at school there was totally different to the Afrikaans in school in Cape Town. I think I was probably a grade 8, in my grades, because my Afrikaans was hopeless, but I learned a lot there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then I later on went to work for a Afrikaans boss at Metropolitan.
Okay.
So I learned a lot there as well. So ek is 'n bietjie tweetalig.
So jy kan die taal gooi.
Ja, ek
Oh,
kan.
cool. Okay. So father English, mother English, British English or South African English?
British English.
Okay.
Yeah.
What generation were they?
3rd generation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your surname though, oh no, but you were married,
Yes.
is Jewish.
It's Jewish.
Were you-
Finnish Jewish, yeah.
Finnish Jewish?
Yeah. My
Oh,
late
wow.
husband was Finnish.
Your what?
Late husband was
Okay.
Finnish.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to Finland?
Yes, lots. All over Scandinavia.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, my
No, we
husband
spent a lot of
studied
time.
in Finland. So he did his PhD there. So
Oh,
he lived there
wow.
for 7 years, yeah. In Tampere.
Oh, no, yeah, I remember Tampere.
it?
I don't
Okay.
remember what it looks like, but we travelled quite a lot around Finland, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. No, I love Scandinavia.
So he was a Jewish Finn.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your family of origin, your folks, were they Christian,
Yeah.
Jewish?
No, Christian. In fact, when we were children, they were both quite firm believers, but they actually didn't go to church themselves. But there were 3 of us, I was the oldest, and we were forced to go to Sunday school every week. So I went quite reluctantly and rebelliously. But, obviously when I was a young child, it was nice. When I got to my mid-teens and I'd become a rebel and hung around the hippie market in Cape Town and loved, that
Was
whole
that Green
piece.
Market Square?
Long Street, actually.
Okay.
No, not Long Street, Bree Street. It was like the post-Woodstock era hippies, peace, love, freedom, happiness,
serious?
But I didn't ever touch any drugs then. I just loved these
dogma.
guys with long hair and
Yeah.
all these like flowing dresses and psychedelic bell bottoms and that whole thing,
Okay. So were you a rebellious teenager?
Yeah,
Sounds like.
definitely. I remember, in fact, last week drove through Pinelands and I spotted this house, and I remembered when I was 12, at the end of grade 7, it was then standard 5. A whole lot of us went to this guy's house after school. His parents were away, and all the guys were drinking beer, and I smoked my first cigarette.
Okay.
When I was 12, and I have had many, many, many years that I haven't smoked in between, but at the moment I'm a pretty heavy smoker. Yeah, no, I was very rebellious as a teenager. I was always getting sent out of assembly and Saturday morning detention and smoking and bunking phys ed. I think I bunked up swimming for the whole of grade 9. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know why. You mean why was I rebellious?
Why were you so rebellious? Was there drama in the house?
I think, yeah, I think I know. I do think I know why. Because
Okay.
my parents were very strict.
Okay.
They were too strict. They were very authoritarian. There was like very little love, but everything was about appearances. Like we had to be immaculately dressed. The house was so spotless it looked like a museum inside. So it was all about appearances. On the outside, everything looked fantastic.
Keeping up the appearances.
Yeah. Oh, and my mom is quite a snob that way as well. Still is. So I think I rebelled against this whole thing. Plus, a lot of my friends were given a lot more freedom than I was.
Okay. Oh, yes. So you could
And
see the
so
the
I could see, I mean,
constraints
their
within-
parents were far more liberal and they were allowed out more. They were able to spend time with each other. And I remember my whole mantra to my parents was like, freedom for teenagers, So, and we would fight incessantly about that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that's where the rebellious streak came from.
And were you a bad example to your siblings?
Brother and sister.
Were they rebellious as well, or were they okay to...
My sister was fairly compliant. My brother, who was 3.5 years younger than me, was just as much of a rebel as I was, and also like into heavy rock. And he was smoking marijuana from like about the age of 16. And yeah, I know he was the worst, and I was the second worst. My sister, the youngest, was great as far as they were concerned.
Shame the poor child.
Yeah.
What happened after school?
I was actually just thinking about this the other day when I was doing step work. All decisions that I made were made around what I never knew then was my addiction.
Okay.
I knew nothing about the disease of addiction, had I known, maybe something would have clicked in me that just maybe I was a love addict.
Okay.
And that was the first manifestation of my disease. Because every decision that I made was based around my love life.
Okay.
So I intended, obviously, to study after school, as most people do. But by then, by the age of 18, I finished matric at 17, but I'd already been in a relationship for 2 years with a guy who was 7 years older than me. We met at the ice rink. Oh, yeah, they loved it because he had long hair as well. And he lived on the wrong side of town.
Oh, my God.
So,
wrong side of the trail.
Yeah.
The railroad
So
line.
after 6 months, they forbade us to see one another, and we just did. I managed to see him once a week.
Possibly the worst thing to forbid a teenager.
No, it was terrible.
They're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. So I had drama classes in town then on a Saturday morning. So we'd meet in Cape Town, city centre on a Saturday morning. And then after another year, they said, okay, we could see each other again. So, but anyway, so because they were so strict and so basically anti this relationship, we decided that we wanted to move in together.
Okay.
Therefore, I was not going to study after school. I was just going to start working so that I could be independent and we could move in together. Because this relationship was everything to me. Like, he was everything to me. And everything else was of secondary importance. I did a crash secretarial course for like 6 months. Went to work for Metropolitan.
Where were they? In town at those?
In Wells Street.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, they were called Homes Trust Life.
Oh, my word.
And then they amalgamated with Metropolitan. And in the beginning, they were called Metropolitan Homes Trust.
Okay.
And I worked there for about 4 years. And as fate would have it, I'd no sooner, I'm telling you, it was probably a month. This is what happened. Now we can actually start to plan to move in together. Unknown to me, his whole family were I didn't even pick it up because the parents didn't shove it down our throats. They were very religious.
Yeah.
To such a point that all churches were wrong. Like, only the Bible was right.
Okay.
So women don't wear pants. They don't wear makeup. You don't cut your hair. You don't go to the beach. That's exposing your body. You don't go to movies. Even going to the Spur would be like controversial because it's mixing with worldly people. Obviously by now we'd been together for 2 years. We'd started a physical relationship. And then what happened was we went to Greenpoint Stadium. It was then Greenpoint Stadium. And there was an evangelist here from Canada. And he had 6 brothers and sisters. And we all went that night. I don't know how it happened, but we just did. And there was an altar call. You know what an altar call is? When they call people up if they want to be born again and give their lives over to Christ. And we went forward at the altar call.
You and him?
Me and him. And
not discussing it before that you're going to do it?
Not at all. And 1 or 2 of his brothers and sisters as well. And I didn't realize then the ramifications of that decision because suddenly now we had to adhere to the parents' rules. And that was all the things that I've just mentioned.
Yeah.
Like you don't wear pants. Women don't wear pants. Women don't cut their hair. Women don't wear makeup.
Is it Jehovah's Witness?
No, it sounds like it, but it wasn't. It was like I've actually never come across another bunch of people like that. And a bunch of people. And it was hectic because, I was 18.
Yeah.
I just could have my first taste of freedom. Suddenly, my life is now I have to adhere to stricter rules, if you want to call it rules, than ever before. And I did my utmost to start believing in all this so that I felt that I was doing it for me, not just because I was listening to what somebody else was telling me what to do. So I found it really, really, really hard. And I stuck it out for another 2 years and I just couldn't anymore.
Okay. So you were then still living with your folks?
Yeah.
Because your religion prohibited you from
living together,
Okay.
yeah.
And then after 2 years you broke up with him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was 5 years altogether. So I switched apartments at work. And I'd gone to work for the computer systems and data processing departments. And all the cool people were there. All the IT people.
All the dope smoking geeks.
Yeah, and every Friday was pub lunches and not go back to work. Even the bosses would join us. So it was a lot of fun. And I met my first husband there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where did you stand religiously then? Were you then religiously against it? Or?
No, I've always kept the same religious beliefs.
Okay.
But when I left that boyfriend, And I started doing things that normal people do. And this is all like, I mean, although I mentioned pub lunches, I was not into drinking at all. I certainly was not into drugs. I still felt, just by doing the other things, normal things like going to movies, going to the beach, wearing jeans again, dressing the way that teenagers dress, or young adults
dress,
and initially I honestly initially felt that I would be struck down by a bolt of lightning for my sins.
Oh, wow.
So it was tough, but at the same time I was like loving it. It was like I could now be me again. I felt like, although I wanted to adopt all of their beliefs and principles, it just didn't, it wasn't there.
Just did not resonate with you. Yeah.
Basically what they all believed, yes, but why have all these rules around it?
Yeah.
So I found that very hard, and initially, as I say, I really felt like, now I'm the world's biggest sinner, and I'm going to be, if I have to die now, I'll go straight to hell.
Ugh.
And I could...
That's the worst feeling.
Yeah, no, it wasn't nice, but I think what sort of overrode that was the fact that I was actually now just enjoying my life again. Meeting a lot of new people, doing a lot of fun things. Nothing over the top.
Because this was now what, the early 70s?
This was 1979.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we married in 1979, and actually we'd only known each other for 6 months when we got married, yeah.
He passed away?
No, I was married to him for 8 years.
Okay.
We had 2 children, Ryan and Andrea. After 3 years we had Ryan, three years of marriage. But it wasn't a happy marriage. There was a lot of fighting. He was very, very, very controlling.
Okay.
And there was a lot of fighting and a lot of emotional...
So it's interesting how you come from a controlling father and mother and marry a controlling husband.
Yeah.
It's freaky, hey?
It is.
It happens so often.
Very, yeah.
Alcoholic child marries an alcoholic.
Yes, yeah, no, totally. I quite agree. And I often used to think of it then. Like from one totally controlling situation straight into another one. And then even in between, although that wasn't a choice, but it just turned out that the rules around that religion, the rules around it was very controlling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we divorced after 8 years. And
were you still attending some form of church at that stage? Okay, so
once I left my first boyfriend, I never went back to church. Then, ever.
Cool.
So,
right, so now you're divorced and still in Cape Town?
Still in Cape Town. Now I've left him and I've moved with the 2 children into a flat Greenpoint.
Okay.
But meanwhile, I'd love addict through and through, one relationship straight into another. I've already met my second husband like 10 years before that.
Really?
Yeah, I met him at a business Christmas party. Yeah, we started seeing each other like once or twice a week, and 9 months later I moved in.
Okay.
To Camps Bay, yeah.
Oh, nice. So
yeah, but by now
you move up in the social circle.
Yeah, but by now I'd actually moved to Camps Bay myself as well, and had a flat in Camps Bay. When I think about the rentals, then I think the rent of that flat, which was huge, with 2 big bedrooms, stunning big lounge, a balcony with a sea view, which was like 350 rand a month. I'm really telling my age here now, but that's what it was.
Oi, and you're still with Metropolitan, or have you stopped working now?
No. I'd left Metropolitan, and at that stage I'd gone to work in a showroom for Constantia Carpet Mills. I don't know if you know. I don't even know if Constantia Carpets are still going. I've no idea. So I worked there, and then I went to work for, when we were dating and when I moved into that flat in Camps Bay, I started to work for Edgar's, for the management team, like doing sales analysis and stuff like that. And I just started doing a little bit of merchandising for accessories department.
Oh, nice.
And I loved working for Edgar's. Actually, I loved it. I loved that job.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was very, very nice.
Okay. So now and he was Jewish?
Yes, he was Jewish.
And did you convert?
I started converting, not at his request, because although he was Jewish, he wasn't at all religious.
Okay.
We'd go to shul twice a year, on the anniversary of his mom's death and for Yom Kippur. Okay. And I would fast then, which was hell, but I'd fast for the day. But he wasn't religious, and he certainly didn't expect me to convert to Judaism. But out of my own, I'd started attending conversion classes, and I loved the Hebrew because I love languages. So the Hebrew was quite easy for me to learn.
Oh, serious?
And I
Good.
quite enjoyed the whole thing until I was told that we have to renounce Christ, and I just couldn't do it.
Okay.
Because of my, my spiritual beliefs that I grew up with, and what had happened later on in life, everything, a combination. I just couldn't do it.
Okay.
So I pulled out of the classes. It hadn't been important to him, so I didn't continue with.
And what then? Were you in no man's land spiritually?
Yeah, in a way. As I say, the beliefs never went away, but I certainly wasn't practicing any form of religion or spirituality.
Okay.
My deep-seated beliefs were still there, but I wasn't doing.
Cool.
Not.
And did you have any children? Yes, you must have with one son.
Yes. We'd been married. We weren't going to, because we each had a son and daughter from a previous marriage, and then we'd been married for 10 years already, and I looked after my brother's child because his wife had gone into hospital to have a baby, and the brother's child was 3. And while I looked after this 3-year-old, I thought, no, I want to have another child.
Okay.
And I was then already 39. So I went to my husband and I said, this is the story. And he said, not a chance. And so I went to sulk and sleep in the spare bedroom for 2 nights.
That's not the way to have a baby.
No, definitely not. But after a few, we had actually a stunning marriage.
Is it?
Yeah, we hardly ever fought. I think I can remember one fight in 17 years.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure there were smaller fights, but that was one big one. So after about a week or less, he came to me and he said, actually didn't even come to me. He gave me this card, and it was a black and white photo in front with a man and woman's hands holding hands. And inside was written, let's do it, your personal sperm bank.
Sweet.
Yeah, so, and then I fell pregnant about a month later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I turned 40 halfway through the pregnancy.
And what was the next big thing?
Yeah, well, when Nicholas was when Nicholas was 3. No.
The other children were now, 14?
14 and 16.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 14 and 16. So there's a big age gap. But we all lived very happily then.
Were his 2 children with you guys as well?
No,
or were
they were quite a lot older.
Okay.
His wife actually was alcoholic.
Okay.
And he went through hell with her. And they had divorced many, many years before that.
Okay.
And the kids used to see their mom, but they lived with him when they got divorced.
Okay.
He had custody.
Okay.
I thought that our relationship was sort of okay, but it actually wasn't. I only found out later on, after he got ill, how badly they actually felt towards me.
Oh, no.
I just don't think they would have accepted anybody.
Okay.
So the next big thing was, he had 4 companies, 1 in Joburg, 1 in London, 2 in Cape Town, and he sold all 4 companies when Nicholas could even have been when I was pregnant, or otherwise in the first year of Nicholas's life. Invested everything into one Nasdaq share on the advice of a friend of his. And this is even I, who's no financial wizard or businesswoman by any stretch of the imagination, would know not to put all your eggs in one basket. I don't know what made him do it, but it was on the advice of a friend of his, and the owner of that specific company was also a friend of his in the States. He ended up losing everything.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because...
Over what period of time?
About a year.
So
And I
within
don't know why
1
he
year,
didn't
having
pull out.
4 companies,
Yeah.
and a year later he had nothing.
Yeah, I think probably after he sold the companies and we had the investments going, we probably for a year were absolutely flying high. Like no matter how much money we spent, we'd always have a shitload more money.
Oh.
Because if I remember,
Hallelujah.
if I remember correctly, those investments went up to something like 70 million rand. I'm not even joking.
God.
And then slowly it started, why didn't he pull out then when it was like 30 million? I don't know. But then in 2001, everything fell apart. I actually found out, for years this used to bother me, I haven't even thought about it for ages now, but my sister's mother-in-law, for some stupid reason, it's a long story, put a curse on me, okay? So That later on I discovered that night, the same day that she put the curse, that night, my son used heroin for the first time.
Oh my God.
A few
That's
months,
now the oldest one, Ryan.
my oldest one,
Yeah.
Ryan, yeah.
Not the 4-year-old.
No, not the 4-year-old.
That is a stupid question.
Yeah, Ryan used heroin. And then my husband, the shares that where all the investments were started dropping. And then about 6 months later, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Oh my word.
An inoperable, worst type of brain tumor that you can get. So
Oh my God.
in the space of less than a year, in fact probably around 6 months, everything just started falling apart.
Gone for a ball of shit.
Yeah. The brain.
How did you cope with all of this?
There, I turned back to God.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to spend a lot of time praying. I started going to the church in Hart Bay.
Which church did you go to now? Jewish?
When then?
Yeah, shul or...
Oh, no,
normal?
not shul. No, it was like a born-again Christian church. It wasn't a church building. It was in the international school's school hall.
Right next to the treatment center you landed up in. Anyway, moving on swiftly. Okay, so now you are tapping into God to get you through this difficult period.
Yeah,
Okay.
very
And how
much
long
so.
was your husband alive with a brain tumor?
When he was diagnosed, first of all, I could see something wasn't okay. I actually thought he was getting Alzheimer's or something. Then he said he's going on a business trip, and I thought, oh, how the heck is he going to cope with a business trip? You know, didn't make sense. Then he was like, no, don't come to the airport. Michael, his son, is going to take me. And I said to him, there's something that you're not telling me. And he looked like guilty. Less than a week later, I got a phone call from his very good friend that I'm still good friends with in London. They'd actually gone on a ski trip, and he had fallen down in the snow and been admitted to hospital. So when he came back to Cape Town weeks later, I could see, now he looked even worse because the cabin pressure of the aircraft and we didn't know about the tumor then, but it had increased the swelling around the tumor. So the very next day I took him to City Park to his specialist physician. He was there the whole day having tests. And when the results came back at the end of the day after numerous tests, brain scans, all sorts of things, we were told about this particular, and I don't remember the name of it anymore, but this particular type of tumor that has tentacles. It's not like on top of the brain, it's like inside. You can't operate on it. And he was given 2 weeks to live.
2 weeks?
2 weeks. Without treatment, he would have lived another 2 weeks. So he went straight into hospital, was put on cortisone, came out, and then it was radiotherapy and chemotherapy every day for 5 days of the week for months, 3 to 6 months. And then he bloated up from the cortisone, his hair fell out, and his memory just went so fast. And he ended up being sick for 3 years.
Oh my word.
Yeah. So he lived for another 3 years, not 2 weeks. But it was actually hell.
3 years of hell.
It was hell, yeah. It was hell.
It's nearly like keeping somebody artificially alive.
Yeah, it was especially hard for the children, and mostly Nicholas.
Yeah.
Because
he's now 4, 5, 6, somewhere there.
He was when he was 3 when his dad was diagnosed, and he was 7 when his dad passed away.
And you don't know why he lied to you and said he's going out on a business trip while he went on a skiing trip.
You know why I think? Was because we'd already started losing the money, and he'd actually asked me, because of course I was this wonderful, I wasn't like into bridge parties or golf or anything like it, or drinks with the girls, but I did have a lovely life. And then he asked me if I'd go back to work, and I was only too happy to go back to work.
Okay.
I loved it, but then I only worked for 2 months, and then I had to take him to hospital 5 days a week.
Okay.
So
you were working at that stage? Okay.
Yeah, I was working. So then I had to stop working once. I had to take him to hospital 5 days a week because he couldn't drive himself. And then eventually I had to take the car keys away, take the laptop away, because he was just creating chaos with everything that he did. Because he didn't know what he was doing. He just didn't know any better.
So what did you live on?
Well, we still had some money. Plus we sold that house. That had been a small holding with 3 cottages, 5 stables, 5 huge paddocks.
Sure.
3 acres, river frontage,
massive
triple garage with a huge entertainment room above that with a full-size snooker table and a pub like the Mount Nelson Hotel. And a sauna and all of that.
Good grief.
So we sold that, and then we bought a lesser home.
Okay. So
But
at
now-
least that
So we had that money, and plus he'd lent money to this friend in UK, and that friend was paying us back 50,000 rand a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that helped a lot.
Yeah.
Sure.
Without that, we would have been really struggling. And that wasn't the last time we downsized houses. After that, we needed to downsize again.
Okay. So now husband is ill, and other son has started using heroin. Phew.
You know, Ryan, in retrospect, he was a fantastic, easy baby and toddler. But like from halfway through primary school, I could see things weren't okay with him. He was very antisocial. He isolated a lot. Didn't have a lot of friends. Didn't sort of coasted through school, sort of just above average. Didn't put in any effort. Didn't want to do sport. Then he started partying, and I was happy for him just that he was going out. Certainly never. To me, drugs was like a completely different world.
Never thought about it.
Knew nothing about it. Yeah, it was tough because Ryan was on one mission. After about a year of his active addiction, even though in and out of treatment centers, he actually just wanted to die, and that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of suicide attempts, and it was hard. Yeah, it was hard.
Because this is now still while husband is sick as well. My word. And you're hanging on to the church for...
Yeah, very much so.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, no, I was very much hanging on to that. And I couldn't always go to church because of time. I had no time for myself.
Because now you still have a teenage daughter.
Yeah, I've got a teenage daughter.
Pre-teen son.
And Nicholas at that stage was between the ages of like 4 and 7.
Okay.
Andy was around about 17. Ryan was 19. And Andy and her brother Ryan had always had a rough relationship. They fought a lot.
Okay.
And she was constantly asking me to kick him out of the house, and I just couldn't do it. So that created conflict between her and I as well.
Yeah.
So they weren't exactly happy times.
Yeah, shame.
But somehow I just get through it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who passed away first?
Well, what happened was my husband passed away first. He got pneumonia. He'd just been getting steadily worse. And that day he just actually didn't regain consciousness.
Okay.
And he passed away in the bed with me holding his hand.
Okay.
And then 12 days later, my son took his life.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
12 days later.
Yeah. But you know what? When I found his suicide note, he had started trying to kill him. Well, I mean, even in the year before, there had been occasions. But he was now seriously on a mission to end his life. And when I found his suicide note, he ended up passing away my husband passed away on the 12th of June 2006, and Ryan on the 25th of June. His suicide note started on the 4th of May.
Oh, my word.
And every suicide attempt, he'd add on another paragraph. And you could see when he'd been using by the way that he wrote. You know, it was like scribbles and arrows and see here.
How the hell do you cope? So the first thing that comes to my mind is this absolute dichotomy of a husband fighting for his life and a child trying not to live.
Yeah.
What a weird thing.
Yeah, it was.
And then how the hell do you cope with those two intense deaths in a row?
I have no idea. You know, I remember one time when our border collie jumped, when we used to live in Clifton before Hout Bay, and the border collie jumped over the wall to the neighbour's house, and there were 2 German shepherds, and they ripped her to pieces.
Oh, no.
And Ryan and I cried every night because I'd always tuck the kids in bedtime stories, ticklebacks, all of that stuff. And Ryan and I cried at bedtime every night, I think, for 6 months. And I thought to myself, how on earth do people cope with the death of a loved one if I can't cope with the death of a pet?
Yeah.
And every time a pet died, I'd fall apart. As far as my husband was concerned, to be honest, it was a blessing.
It wasn't unexpected.
No, it wasn't unexpected. And neither was Ryan's unexpected.
Okay, yeah.
With my husband, it was like a blessing because we all felt like we just couldn't do this anymore.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then with Ryan, you know what, I definitely was in shock that whole day. Because I remember sitting in the lounge of that house just staring at one spot and a lot of people coming and going, family and friends, and I don't think I even moved. And I was sort of, definitely in shock because I was like, sort of happy for him, you know, that he was away from all that pain that he'd been trying to escape. And I remember thinking that somehow when you really think that you'll never be able to do what you have to go through, that God is there helping you through it.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
there was no, I still can't believe that I got through it like I did. I'm not saying that I was happy. Of course I wasn't happy.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember the florist coming there like twice a day, if not more often. That house looked like a florist shop because of like 2 deaths so close together. And I remember the one time that she came and I met her at the security gate and I was crying all over the place. And she said, "Oh, my heart, I don't know what to say to you." She said, "I can't believe that this is so terrible." But you just do cope.
Yeah.
You just do. You have to. Especially I had a lot, Lamaki, anyway, you know.
So you're now what, 47?
Then.
Yeah. I'll never ask you your age on air.
Was I 47? 46?
46, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, kill me for a year.
No, sorry, yeah, but that year is like really important to me.
Okay. What now?
So now we pick up the pieces, and in picking up the pieces, even before they both passed away, was that okay, now I'm, the love addict, now I'm in a new relationship already.
Okay.
But before that, I know that I told you that story about discovering cocaine in my safe. So now I've tried, for the first time in my life, I've tried a drug.
Okay. So that was still while Ryan and husband were alive?
Yes, because in actual fact, while Ryan was alive, now we moved houses again. So while Ryan was alive even, I had tried cocaine a few times, then decided, no, I'm becoming a drug addict, so I'm going to just leave it alone. Certainly wasn't addicted. It wasn't something that I thought about every day or even every week. But I do remember one day I was doing painting stuff to do with the renovations, and I just said to Ryan, let me just try your heroin. And I tried the heroin, and I actually hated it because it made me nauseous.
Are you serious?
Yes. He gave me heroin on a plate, and I think it was the size of a pinhead, which I snorted. Yeah. And it made me very nauseous, and I thought it was disgusting. And then, but clearly that sort of sick insanity of the disease of addiction was there, because I remember he was at work when I was painting, and then I messaged him or phoned him at work, and I said, where do you keep your heroin, because I want some more. And he said, "No, Mum, no, I'm not telling you, because you'll end up like me." And he was right. But that wasn't my drug of choice, as you know. It was cocaine that I found in the safe. But as I say, I left it alone. There was like 3 times in a week. And I thought, no, this is real. In fact, it wasn't even. And I thought, no, this is playing with fire. And then when I got together with my ex-boyfriend, and he was alcoholic, he would drink every single day of his life.
Was that the guy who you had the affair with while your husband was still alive? Okay, cool.
Well, yeah, in the last year that he was still alive, yeah.
And that was a toxic relationship right from
terrible
the word go.
Relationship, terrible. Okay. And it lasted for 12 years.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. I hadn't been out at night for about 2 years. Friends dragged me off to the lookout deck in Hart Bay, and the night when we arrived, they actually took me there to set me up with somebody whose wife had passed away.
Okay.
And ended up meeting this guy. A whole lot of girls arrived at the same time that a whole lot of guys arrived, and the place was packed. There was a stunning band playing there every Sunday night. So then we started going every Sunday. Just that one night a week I'd go out and do my own thing. Then I met him, wasn't even that attracted to him, and 4 months later we started a relationship, and I just couldn't just end it. And he used cocaine and ecstasy at times. So even then in the beginning, I used it like a handful of times, left it alone, wasn't interested. Then when Ryan passed away, I decided that's it. I'm not touching anything. And for 18 months I didn't. Okay. Because in that time period, it had literally been a handful of times. I thought, not touching the stuff. This is, I don't even know what I was thinking.
I think a logical thing would be this shit kills.
Yeah.
So I
mean logically, I don't know what I was thinking with even trying it out, Yeah. So then it was 2006 that they'd both passed away, middle of 2006. By the middle of 2008, this relationship was crazy. It was so abusive.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to buy cocaine on my own. Got the number from the dealer that he used, from him and started using it every single day.
Okay.
And then I just couldn't stop.
Mm. And in that period when you started using drugs, was the relationship with God completely fucked? There was just nothing? Or did you still try and keep that up?
Well, I didn't try. I mean, I didn't do anything to keep it going. Like, I didn't go to church. I didn't read my Bible. I didn't socialize with other Christian people. But fundamentally, deep down inside, I still had the same beliefs.
Okay, yeah.
And I still felt that, I knew that I was a real sinner. But I was, that whole period of using, in any case, I was just living in denial. It's just, my feelings around myself were so bad that I used to feel good so that I didn't have to feel those bad feelings. And when I used, I was okay.
Yeah. And you were in a relationship that was supposed to make you feel good, but it was abusive. So
it was abusive. I mean, we did have good times.
Yeah.
Obviously, we did have some good times. And there were a lot of laughs and fun around the whole using thing. And we had a lot of fun at times. But it would always end up being abusive.
Okay.
So it wasn't happy. It was very, and I put a huge amount of effort into this relationship. He was 16 years younger than me.
Okay.
I put a huge amount of effort into that relationship to try and keep it going. And I'd resort to begging and pleading and writing letters and doing anything that I could. And I mean, although it sounds like having lost all that money, that we were absolute paupers. But by most people's standards, we actually weren't that badly off. We'd still go overseas and we'd still go snow skiing, and I even bought him a car and a Sonata body, and we still lived pretty well, but also I wasn't, especially because of the using. I just wasn't living in any form of reality. Thinking about what's lying around the corner is just going through money at the rate of knots, and my using just made it 10 times worse.
So by the time you ended up in treatment, you were homeless?
No, not the first 2 times.
Okay, you did treatment twice.
Yeah, before last year. I did in 2010 for 28 days.
Was that when we met?
No, that was a different treatment centre. Went there for 28 days, used 3 times in treatment. Wasn't interested in coming clean. Didn't want to go to treatment, just went to please my daughter. Waste of money, 34,000 rand I remember for 28 days. Didn't want to stay clean, and when I came out I'd only been clean for 9 days, and I relapsed the same day again anyway. And then I went back in end of 2011, so it was basically 2012 because it was December. And that's the treatment centre where we met when I was in secondary. And then I was supposed to end this toxic relationship with my counsellor there in the counsellor's room. And we even had a role play in the room downstairs at secondary. I remember with the whole treatment centre being involved with this big breakup. But meanwhile, we were allowed our phones at night. I don't know if you remember that. In secondary, we could have our phones at night and on the weekend. And I just messaged him the night before and I said, I'm going to be breaking up with you tomorrow, but it's not happening. And so he knew. So he came in and we did the breakup, but it wasn't a breakup.
Oh, my word.
And I was such a bloody scallum that every single message that we sent between each other, message, photograph, anything, I deleted it the minute I'd sent it, in case my phone was ever checked. And one day it was, and there was nothing on it. So I was like, oh, see, I'm so good. I just listen to everything that I'm told.
You're such a bloody addict,
Yeah, and Tracy, that counsellor, she said to me, if you relapse, it's going to be on love addiction. And she was dead right. Because then I ended up relapsing the first weekend that I had free time, going into tertiary on my 4-month clean date. I relapsed. Because I was meeting him that day for the first time in 4 months. And 4 months of not seeing one another at all, we fought straight away. Straight away the abuse started. Verbal and emotional.
Oh my God.
And even physical. Actually. So he just kept saying, look at you, and still an addict, just pick up the phone the dealer. And I was like, fuck you, and sorry. And
No, the podcast is under the explicit, is marked as explicit, so people expect to hear the odd fuck.
So after listening to that for 7 hours and fighting and really hitting each other while we're driving in the car.
Oh my word.
After 4 months of always texting at night. Oh, I miss you so much, and we'll get together, and I'll be clean, and you must try not to go to the pub, and load of plain bullshit. And then within an hour, because first of all he arrives late, and he's drunk.
Oh no.
It's just a bloody disaster. So,
and you hung around.
Yeah. So later that day, I thought, well, where do we go actually? So I had some money, so I booked us into you had to be home at midnight. That was the curfew for tertiary. Booked us into the Duval Sun, or whatever it was called, hotel.
That
Eastern
Holiday
Boulevard.
Inn next to the highway,
I still remember it was 800 Rand for the night.
Okay.
But he could stay the night. I had to be back at midnight. And found the dealer. And used... And thought this is going to be fantastic. I haven't used for 4 months.
Yeah.
And I had one line and I thought, geez, thank heavens it was terrible, because now I'm just going to throw it away. I don't need it anymore. Well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
And 2 hours later I was on the phone ordering the next one. And I used right through the night. And in actual fact, I think that I left tertiary and walked down to the ATM at 2 o'clock in the morning to get more money to order more cocaine. And in the morning I had to go to an 8:30 NA meeting in Rose Street in the city centre, and I had a whole mug full of cocaine in my room, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I went to that meeting saying I'm 4 months clean, but I was as high as a kite.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Oi.
And I even chaired. I used to chair an AA meeting in Sea Point every Thursday morning, and I'd use cocaine right through the night. It was terrible. I mean, it's nothing to laugh about. I shouldn't be laughing, but it was... Yeah, no, it was terrible.
It just shows that absolute unmanageability and complete...
No, it was terrible. And lied to my counsellor. And I think I became so good at lying that I could even change the expression in my eyes, Yeah, and then after that, it was just downhill.
So how long before you ended up in treatment then again?
5 years of hell.
Oh my God.
5, and I never thought I'd go back.
I can just imagine
treatment.
what hell that must have been.
No, it was absolute hell. It was hell on earth. The first year, I left treatment in the middle of 2012. I still owned the house, but I gave her power of attorney, and they used to give me 8,000 Rand a month. Well, that certainly wasn't enough for me to live on with using.
Yeah.
So I had to use quite sparingly, and by the end of that year, the whole family was so fed up with me asking for money all the time that they just gave me what they agreed upon to give me, which was about 600,000 Rand from the sale of the house, and the rest they used for other things such as a trust fund for Nicholas and things like that. Well, that's not peanuts, 600,000 Rand. But I just managed to go through it all in about 8 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No thought of tomorrow. My reason came beyond anything else, above everything else. I mean, I was paying rent and doing other buying stuff, but if I hadn't been using it, I just had no concept of the future. Yeah. Just everything revolved around drugs. Sure. Everything revolved around being able to use.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Listen, Janice, so by the time you got into the last treatment facility, did you immediately reconnect with religion? Or was it...
before then even. Because I remember in the last situation, the last months, praying a lot.
Oh, is it? Okay.
My situation was desperate. I was still in this abusive relationship. In fact, only a few months ago did I delete all the photos on my phone that I had of the bleeding and the bruises and all of that stuff. It was my life wasn't going anywhere. In fact, I just did actually wish that I was dead most of the time. So I was praying a lot. I was desperate for a way out of that situation.
And then the treatment center was the answer. So that was the answer to your prayers. Cool.
Yeah, very much
so. By the time you got in, the whole higher power thing wasn't a problem for you?
Not at all.
Oh, cool.
In fact, I remember that thinking that when I started with the step work again, because this is now the second time that I was starting to do step work, but because I lied my way, keeping that relationship going through my second treatment center, I was obviously lying in my step work as well.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that beneficial to me. Like, I don't really remember even doing a step 5 there.
I can imagine.
So this time I really connected with what was
Fantastic.
with what was going on in my life, and the fact that I had this quite a strong connection with my higher power was a huge help for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
So right now, today, 1 year clean and have a strong spiritual connection. Connection with our friendship at the moment is your commitment to recovery and your commitment to service, and so that's lovely.
Yeah, and I was thinking just the other day, to me, like all the suggestions of the 12-step program or the NA program is like the foundation of the whole thing to me is like, if I don't have the foundation for me, I'm not saying it's like that for anybody else, but for me, it's like having that higher power connection.
Yeah.
So once that is in place, then I can start to build on the other things. And then what's essential, so you need that foundation, and the other essential things are like doing the 12 steps, having a sponsor, going to meetings, because to me, those 3 things for me are therapy.
Yeah.
They work for me like therapy.
Yes.
And then the other thing of doing service is just like reinforcing everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the way it works for me.
That's awesome. And it's working because you're working it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fabulous. So that's excellent. Listen, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I so appreciate it.
You're very,
so was it
very
anything
welcome.
to be afraid of?
No.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
Cool.
Definitely not.
Listen,
Thank
thank you
Freddie.
very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest
Thanks
of your
for having
day.
me here. Yes, you too.
I was stunned to hear what Janet has gone through on her path of life. I obviously hear many terrible stories in my counseling practice and by working with sponsees, and it never fails to amaze me by what the human psyche and body can endure. It was really wonderful to hear that Janet has endured life, but eventually decided to grab life by the balls and swing it around. I thoroughly enjoy the time I spent with Janet. We share a similar sense of humor, and one night I nearly overturned the car from laughing so much while she was telling me about her thought process during one of her suicide attempts. Do not get me wrong, suicide is nothing to be laughed at, and I take it very, very seriously. But from one warrior to another, we could see the insanity and find the humor in that. I am very grateful that Janet has survived and is part of my life. If you want to know more about what I do, please feel free to connect with me on my website, which is www.freddy.org.za, or find me on Facebook at www.facebook.com/freddy.org.za, or on Twitter at @RensburgFreddy. Remember that Freddy is always spelled with an IE at the end. I want to thank you for listening. Be safe. Bye.